Today, I've got the chance to talk to the composer Deirdre Gribbin. Deirdre has written a new work for the Irish Chamber Orchestra, and it's set to her son Ethan Stein's poems. Deirdre is a celebrated composer, and that in itself is interesting. But Ethan is also a remarkable young man. He's only 15 years old, and he's already an absolutely fantastic poet, and also he has Down syndrome. Deirdre, the first thing I want to ask you, what has it been like working with Ethan on this project? And what are his thoughts about your composition? I mean, has he heard any of it yet? Or what's it been? Tell me something about it and how he's reacted to it.
Well, firstly, I'm really pleased to be here and delighted that this commission is happening. It's an incredibly personal piece of work for me. Ethan is also extremely excited and talking about sharing his words with the audience in Kilkenny. He has just come back from the Bantry Festival where he heard a new work of mine. So he loves going to concerts. He loves being around the whole business of the music and the text. So he started writing poems when he was about 9. And the first song that you will hear is a poem that he wrote when he was 9. And Ethan struggles with speech. Other people with Down syndrome have traditionally had problems with producing speech and cognition with sentence structure. But aside from this, he just has this incredible insight into imagery with poetry. And some of the phrases that he says are very to the point and incredibly astute in a way that he probably wouldn't be able to deliver if he was having a conversation. And I find that incredibly interesting in terms of how we perceive communication and how we judge people by how they communicate with us.
Absolutely. I've listened to some of your music and it is really evocative and it's really atmospheric. And I'm quite interested to see this connection between the way that Ethan's words and your music kind of join together. But also, I know that you're interested as well in the juxtaposition of drama, fine arts and music. So how does this all come together in the Stones of Life?
Okay, well, Ethan actually paints, and the front of the score has a beautiful watercolour that he did of the Callanish stones. And everything that he's written about, probably aside from his poems about climate change, are things that I've experienced with him. So my viewpoint would be very much mine, and it's very much from the auditory perception. And then his viewpoint is very much a painting an image of it through the words that he uses. So in writing the piece, it really struck me about that perspective of having the real pleasure of working not only with his words, because it's a very personal thing. Of course, I'm very proud of him. I'm his mum. I'm proud of him because of the fact that he has this quite major disability, but also has a way of expressing himself that is so advanced in terms of communication.
I'm always fascinated to ask composers this question. This kind of time, you've written your work, you've kind of done your bit. What's it like between now and the time that you hear the work performed, or that the music actually comes to life? And also, I'm really interested to know, this is also going to be Ethan's first time hearing all of this together, his words and your music, and in a live performance. So tell me how you're both feeling about this.
Well, I love that moment. There is something very cathartic about finishing a piece. Composing is not easy. It's a real joy. I love it. I love that sense of writing something and creating something new. And I had the pleasure of working on this piece at the Tyrone Guthrie Centre at Anna-McCarrick. And for me, that's an incredible space. I can work for 14, 16-hour days if I want to. And there's something very almost meditative about the process when I'm working so intensely on a piece. But then when I finish it, there is that element of incredible trust. I worked once with the poet Seamus Heaney, and he talked about the words being something different when he gave it to me to then make it into a song. And I feel that also with the players, that with Sharon Carty and the ICO, that there's this incredible moment where I just pass it over, and the piece is not a piece of music until they work with it. And that is, for me, a really big part of the triangle of the thought process, the writing, and then the passing it on. And they always bring something that I don't expect. There's a sound world, a three-dimensional sound world, if it's got to do with timbre or just balance or speed or something about the understanding of the piece that takes it into a new direction. And I've been working with Catherine before, Catherine Hanke, and I love her approach to understanding music. I wrote a solo violin piece for her last year, and I know that Sharon's been wanting to work with me for a while, so this is just a great moment for that to come together, I think. Ethan, of course, is extremely, I think he's a bit bemused by the whole thing. I don't think he realises the significance, though somebody did say to him at Bantry, the West Cork Chamber Music Festival, that I believe one of his songs is being set, and he said no 6. So I think he does have that sense that it is a song cycle. Yeah.
Oh, that's really that's really brilliant. No, not 1, 6.
Not 1, 6.
Yeah, exactly. Now, obviously, Kilkenny audiences, they're really used to hearing new works. But just to finish off, I wonder, can you tell me a little bit about what the audience should expect in terms of music and the overall experience that you hope they'll have in St Canice's Cathedral?
Well, I always write song cycles with a very strong narrative in mind. So I've chosen the poems that I think really represent the story I wanted to tell. And they start with this beautiful image of a snowflake going to a town, just being blown into a town. And then that snow transforms into a poem that Ethan wrote about Westminster Bridge, looking out to see the horizon, and then the snow falling and falling on his eyes. And then there are 2 poems in the piece about climate change. He was asked to write a piece at school about an animal, and he wrote a piece about grieving elephants, where elephants find the bones of their forefathers and lift them, and there's that sense of it's been a very profound piece, actually, in terms of what's happening with climate change and the lack of water in Africa, and then he wrote a poem, Bushfire, which is about the awful images that we saw of the koala bears in the Australian bushfires in 2019. And then there's a poem, The Stones of Life, and it's a place that's very, very important to him. Ethan was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes last summer when we were in Scotland, and the first place that he visited when he came out of hospital was the Callanish Stones. And I think there is something very deeply connecting for him he touched the stones, and I think there was something affirming about him having been extremely ill, then having a chance to actually have his holiday. But this stone circle has always been, we visit it, my sister lives in the Outer Hebrides, and we go there every year, and the Callanish stones have always had a really profound effect on him. And I think that there is something that he often just stands with his back against the stone, and it's that sense of belonging to something very deep.
Deirdre, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it, and I'm very much looking forward to the concert. The Stones of Life will be premiered by the Irish Chamber Orchestra at the Kilkenny Arts Festival on the 6th of August at 5 o'clock. Now, this concert, it's only an hour long, so there is time to come and go and see this, and then have a quick dinner, and of course go and see something else in the evening. Take care, and I will see you next week.